It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Sunday morning. With us today is Randy Mastro, the first deputy, I hate to say the former first deputy mayor, but he is. He served till January 1, 2026 or midnight 2026. Well, Randy Mastro, you've been out of a job now, off to do new ventures, and I understand you're with a very, very great law firm now. You're if you're allowed to tell us. Tell us, how does it feel not to be running the entire city right now?
Well, John, first of all, I've returned to my first love. Thank you for noting that, the practice of law, and I'm now a partner at the Deckard firm, one of the nation's and world's greatest law firms. So I'm very proud and honored to have joined their partnership. How does it feel not to be helping to run the city right now? It doesn't feel good, John, because I think that the city, in a lot of respects, isn't doing well and could be doing much better. The mayor is, learning on the job, but some of the mistakes are just rookie mistakes, creating an atmosphere of crisis around the city budget because he's trying to force tax increases on the wealthiest New Yorkers and on corporations and property taxes. So he created a crisis-like atmosphere around the city budget. And that led to Moody's downgrading the city's bond rating, the first negative bond rating since COVID, 6 years. And that was, an unforced error, because the city isn't in crisis. Its budget isn't in crisis. The fact that he wants to spend 11 to 12 billion more and generate higher taxes to pay for it doesn't mean the city is in a crisis. It's not. But unfortunately, it's an unforced error where now, with a revered bond rating agency like Moody's downgrading us, giving us a negative rating, that means it will cost more for capital. And more to be able to bond projects, more to be able to build the affordable housing he says he wants to build. So this was an unforced error. It's unfortunate. We shouldn't be raising taxes. That's bad for the local economy. But we also shouldn't be giving independent rating agencies the impression that we have such severe problems they should be downgrading us. So it's harder for us to do the capital projects our great city needs.
I agree with you, and me and you, we love this city, and we want this city to survive. And I think the revenues are still coming in. I think a lot of people love the city. I think people are still building buildings. I mean, there's got to be some adjustments in some of the regulations and some of the climate control laws, and that's one of my problems, Randy. The climate control where they're mandating that we have to build electric buildings. And guess what? We don't have enough electricity. And go ahead, Randy.
Well, we have to focus, and this is really more at a state level. Although locally, we passed extreme laws that I was part of challenging in private practice previously. Extreme laws about energy consumption that uniquely disadvantage businesses and property owners. But leaving that aside, we have to find solutions to get our energy costs in check. But it's also a question, John, of, when you're mayor, you have to make tough choices. You can't fund every program you'd like to fund just because you think it would be a nice program to have. You have to live within your means and fund that which you can afford to fund. Unfortunately, what we have with a new, inexperienced mayor is he wants to fund every one of his priorities and sets the budget at that level instead of living within our means. And at the same time, to try and force tax increases, he underestimated the revenues we're likely to have. We're financial capital of the world. Wall Street fuels our local economy, and except for the hiccup more recently because of our military involvement in Iran, we are still having a strong year on Wall Street, and that usually yields many billions more in revenue by the end of the year. So he's starting to acknowledge that's likely to happen, but he still has created this atmosphere as if the city is in some kind of budget crisis when it isn't. You don't spend on every program you like. Spend on what we can afford, and be honest about the revenues so that you don't have to start doing things like raising taxes, which actually is bad for the economy. And we see many wealthy Americans now moving to other states to avoid tax consequences. Not a good idea for New York, number one. Number two, don't raid our reserves. We had historically high reserves in our administration, and now he's talking about raiding those reserves. These are all bad ideas.
So what's happening is by saying that they're short money, et cetera, and raiding the reserves, is that what made Moody's nervous?
I think that contributed to making Moody's nervous. What made Moody's the most nervous was a new mayor who came in and said he wanted to raise the total operating expense budget from around 115 to 116 billion, high as it is, to 127 billion. That's 11 to 12 billion more in expense. And then how did he say we were going to pay for it? Well, first he said, our revenues were not going to be as high as people projected, so the gap was a huge gap. Then he had to admit, well, maybe the revenues will actually be higher, so that closed some of it, but he decided to close another part of the gap to raid our reserves. And those reserves, which were at historic highs in our administration, they're there for a reason. To protect the city in a real crisis. The city's not in a real crisis. So when a rating agency looks at all of this pressure to try and raise taxes, this raiding of reserves, this spend mentality, and tax mentality, and within literally weeks saying, revenues are going to be much lower, and then having to admit within 2 weeks that they're going to be higher than that. It doesn't instill a lot of confidence in rating agencies. And unfortunately, that has collateral consequences because your bond ratings are how you fund so many capital projects. You bond the projects, and it affects what you have to pay to bond. And that's going to hurt the city, especially in an administration that says it wants to do even more affordable housing than the record amount of affordable housing that we did during the Adams administration. You do that with capital funding.
Well, Randy, we know each other a long time, and you know President Trump as well as I do. President Trump will give him all the money he needs for affordable housing, but I think it's going to be contingent on that the mayor has to do the right thing for the city of New York in I would say, in the eyes of President Trump.
Well, John, I think one of the things that the new mayor has done better than I expected, and it's a sharp departure from the harsh rhetoric he used on the campaign trail, that he was the only one who would stand up to the president. He's actually tried to open lines of communication and get benefits for the city out of that. And that's a smart thing to do. You have to work with your partners in government, even if you don't like them or they have a different ideology. Now, John, you know President Trump a lot better than I do. But I don't think And I don't think anybody thinks that President Trump thinks raising taxes is a good idea. That's just not the philosophy of his administration. But yet that seems to be the centerpiece of the Mondani administration.
Yes. Well, Randy Mastro, thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and let's catch up again real soon. And congratulations on your new law firm. The name of the firm is Decker.
Deckert.
Deckert. Okay, and you have a website?
Oh, yes, John, absolutely.
It must be
And
Deckert.
John, it's a 150-year-old firm. The pride of Philadelphia, now a major national, international firm, and our New York office is the firm's biggest office. So I'm really proud and honored to be joining its partnership.
Congratulations, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Thank you, John.